While the Byron Nelson and Colonial tournaments dominate the golf headlines for the month of May in Texas, the high school golf season was the focus in April. Hello and welcome to Sports Talk. I'm Tyler Sloan. Today we review the girls' golf season in McKinney ISD. Both Boyd and McKinney High dealt with powerhouse opponents in District 10-5A, but McKinney North was the powerhouse in District 13-4A. I'll be joined by the coaches to discuss the district and regional tournaments. We're about to tee off on this edition of Sports Talk. McKinney girls golf is what we're talking about right now, and I have Coach Jeff Jacobsen with me for the McKinney girls golf team. And Coach, you go into this season, you moved from 4A the previous year to 5A, so that really upped the level of competition in your district. You have the Plano schools, McKinney, Boyd, and of course Allen, and Allen has a great golf team this year. So going into the season, how did you try to get your players to raise their level to match the ones of your district opponents?
Well, I think you got to put it in perspective and look at it not to can we compete with Allen, who's the defending state champions, or the Planos, which those four schools alone are four of the biggest schools in the state of Texas, and we're not. So you've got to want them to continue to improve personally and make their scores their best scores and continue to gradually see that progression. So that's what you kind of go for, is not can we beat them, it's can we compete at our best level at that time.
And most of the interviews I've done so far in Sports Talk, we talk about how they're, one person, whether it be track and field or tennis or football, what you're trying to do versus other opponents. And in this sport, it's really about trying to just work on yourself, trying to improve your own game. And really, it's all about for you, as long as these girls can start setting some personal best records, and that's a successful season.
Yes, you want, anytime you do anything, hopefully if you're competing to get better. And that's what I want them to do. I want them to compete, so when they look at their scores at the beginning of the year compared to their scores at the end of the year, that they can see that progression of, I'm shooting better, I'm hitting the ball better, I'm chipping better, I'm putting better, whatever it might be, whatever their goals are that they're setting for themselves at each tournament or for that semester, even for the year. You want to see that progression of getting to where they need to want, or where they want to be.
This is a young team with no seniors on the entire squad, so everyone's coming back next year. But this year, who'd you rely on to sort of lead the group?
Well, Maddie McSwain is our best player that we have on our team right now. She's a junior, and she's an excellent golfer. At districts, she had a not so good front side, but on her back side of the second round, she shot a 37, so one over par for that side. And that's what you want to see. You want to see them progress. You want to see the work ethic. You want to see them, they're coming to practice on time. Some of them are staying late. Jordan Trent is one of our girls, and she stays. She goes to extra lessons and does extra things after practice, and her progression has been great because she's putting in that extra time. It's just like anything else you do in life, basketball, golf, or even academics. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it.
And as they get from starting as freshmen to when now they're starting to approach their senior year or junior years, from the majority of your team, you at first improve leaps and bounds. You really lower your score, and then as you start to shoot into the 80s, it starts to narrow gaps. It starts to not become as quickly starting to pick up the stroke. So what are some of the little things that you're going to try and tweak with girls like Maddie and Jordan going into next year to try and just lower their score that much more?
Short game. Short game is the great equalizer of golf. If you can get around the green and you can chip it up and you can putt, you might have a bad tee shot and then hit your second shot out in the fairway. But if you can get it close on your third shot and put it in one putt for a par, it's a par. The scorecard never says how you got there, that you went in the trees or that you were in the sand trap. It just shows the final result of that hole. So if you can get them to think that, okay, I might be in trouble now, but what do I need to get out of trouble and make this as successful as I can be on this hole, that's kind of what you strive for. It becomes more not of a physical game, but a little more of a mental game on how can I work through these issues.
And as a coach, when you're working on them with their short game, and especially the putting game, what are some of the little tidbits that you try to tell them to help them understand what the right play to do in each situation when you might not be there to help them?
In practice, when we practice a lot, you try to put them in scenarios or make them play competitive games against each other so that they'll think about things like this. Or, set them out in the trees and say, okay, what's the best shot from here? Let me see you. What kind of chip shot would you hit from here, or where would you go? Sometimes forward is not the best direction. Sometimes sideways and even backwards sometimes is the best direction to get out of the difficult situation you put yourself in now. How can we lessen the damage? And that way you try to get them to think that way. How can I set myself up for success where I'm at now? Be it if they're in the middle of fairway or, if they're off in the tree line, it doesn't matter. You want them to be as successful as they can be.
Even though you moved districts, you still played the district tournament at the same course you had the previous year, Waterview and Rowlett. So that experience from last year, how did that help them this year?
I think it helped them a lot because a lot of them were on the JV team last year or first-time varsity players last year. And it's a totally different tournament. Most tournaments we go to are a shotgun-style tournament. We get them out to the holes, they meet up with the players they're playing with, and they're off and running. And then they'll just, maneuver their way around the course and play 18 holes. At districts, they get called to the tee box. It's their name, their school. There's a lot of people around. They'll applaud, and it's a nervous. If you've never been in that situation, it's a nervous situation. It can be very pressure. If you go, oh, I got to hit a good shot, I got to hit a good shot, and it's not. It's let's just focus on getting off the tee box, and then when you get out there, then it's just golf. And it doesn't matter who's watching or who's around. We're all playing golf, so let's just focus on getting out there and playing golf.
Do some of them really, lighten up and really embrace, that first tee box? All of a sudden, wow, there's a crowd around me rather than just an empty golf course where I'm just playing on it.
Yeah, in practice, I try to set up a scenario where I call them to the tee box and I'll have everybody stand around and kind of clap for them to make them feel that way of we're all watching, just to get them in that mind frame. And some of them you can tell after they hit that first tee shot, they just turn around and look at you like, whew, I got that one out of the way. And then once they get away, they realize, hey, we're just out here playing golf. And that's what you want them to do is just hit a nice tee shot, get off the tee box, let's put it out in the fairway where we can find it nice and easy, and then let's go from there.
What is your goal going into next season? Obviously, it's to try and get their scores even lower, but as you're trying to close the gap with Boyd and then the Plano schools and Allen, obviously, with Allen, being that they've won state championships before, it's hard to immediately close that gap. But as a program, what steps are you trying to take to close that gap?
You want to see continued improvement. I want to see the girls that are coming back improve from where they were this year. I'd like to see them continue to practice. There's all kinds of tournaments and things they can play in the summer. They can keep their skills up. And you can practice all day or, be a Ranger Rick is what they call it, and be on the range all day. But until you really get out there and apply what you've been practicing or apply what you're learning, you hope that they keep playing and practicing and throughout the summer, and you just want to see that marked improvement,
Golf is always a sport that, in the professional level, there's always some controversial issues that happen in tournaments throughout the year. We had back at the Masters the incident with Tiger Woods where he, makes a little mistake in the ruling and has to take a stroke penalty. And there's a question of, with the viewer calling, affecting the professionals. Obviously, that doesn't apply to high school, but what does apply is knowing the rule book. And when these high schoolers are out there on the course, how do they, take those situations where if they're not maybe sure if they made a mistake with the rule book, who's kind of there to help correct them, and is there any correction there?
Yeah, I tell the girls that you got three purposes on the golf course. You're a golfer, you're a rules official, and you're a scorekeeper. And so all the girls in that group are their own rules official, and they're their own scorekeeper. So what we tell them to do, because we can't have rules officials out there, and we as coaches try to stay out of the rulings, so we let the head pro make the rulings. What we'll tell them is do what you think is right and play two golf balls, one with what you think the ruling is and one just normal, and then record both the scores. And then when you get in as a group, we'll come in, find the head pro that's there, we'll get a rule book out, and we'll go over the rule situation and define what the rule is, and then take the scoring one way or the other. We'll take that scoring from that hole.
And golf is such a unique sport where it's an honor system based sport. Than some sports you try to use little holes to try and get an advantage in some way, but in golf, it's really, there's a lot of integrity with everyone that plays the game.
There is a lot of honor, a lot of trust, a lot of integrity. When I'm out playing with my friends or when the kids are playing in tournaments, the guys that I'm playing with, if their ball is off where I can't see them, I expect them to play the ball where it is. Or if there's a situation where they need relief because it's a legal part of the ruling and they're in a tree well or something like that, or in a sprinkler head, they get free relief from that, to take that and use it the right way and not, I expect them to play the right way and do the right thing. And it is a lot of integrity, a lot of trust issues, a lot of honesty, that you're out there when they're playing. I think those are great character attributes that carry on through life. You know, those are things that not only they apply to the golf course, but to school and academics and to, you know, college if they go on, or wherever they go into the business world or whatever they do. Those are things that they can apply for the rest of their life.
Well, Coach Jacobsen, thanks so much for taking time out to join us here on Sports Talk. I appreciate it.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
That's Jeff Jacobsen, the McKinney girls golf coach, and a good season for McKinney as a whole. And they have everyone returning next year, which is going to be so important, you know, to keep the building going and keep lowering their scores.